my darlings, welcome to another video by Tram Vegan and Frodo. I feel like I can tell you so much about Russia because, right, I'm from here. I lived here most of my life. So here are a few interesting or just different fun facts about Russia. Many of you may know Moscow is the capital and in fact the largest city in Russia. The total population in Russia is estimated at, let's say, 143 million of people, and approximately 73.8% of the population lives in urban centers. So right now I'm here where I'm from, and what I'm walking through is basically an urban type like town, city. But the largest cities are Moscow with 10.5 million, St. Petersburg with 4.5 million, and then it goes to Novosibirsk with 1.4, Yekaterinburg 1.3, Nizhny Novgorod with 1.2 million. The land border of Russia is 20,000 to 140k long. It is actually the second longest of any country in the world, but it is the largest country in the world. In fact, it is 1.8 times the size of the US. Russia also shares a border with 14 different countries, including Norway, Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Ukraine, China, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Mongolia, and even North Korea. No other country in the world has as many borders. There are 9 time zones in Russia, across Russia, in fact, and Russia is permanently on daylight savings time. The lowest point in Russia is the Caspian Sea at 28 meters below sea level, and the highest point is actually one of the 7 summits called Mount Elbrus at 5,633 meters above sea level. It is also the highest mountain in Europe, as I said, so it's definitely out there, but I think it'll be like an epic place to visit and climb. Russian is one of the 5 most spoken languages in the world. Russians use Cyrillic alphabet, or on Russian it is called Kirillitsa, Azbuka Kirillitsa. Lake Baikal contains about 20% of the world's fresh water, and it is the deepest lake in the world. Life expectancy at birth for males is 64 years old, and for females is 76 years old. And honestly, personally, from my experience, just males in Russia don't quite care about their health as much, and they drink much more than females. Hence, the 12-year difference between the life expectancy. You will hear me mention, or you might have heard me talk about it in some other Russian videos. You know that the government actually has this new policy of they're giving you, as a mother, to give birth to child number 3 and onwards, you're going to get some money from the government. It's a few hundreds of thousands, or it could be, an apartment, like a small apartment, or they can help you enlarge your accommodation. So they're really, really promoting raising of the population. Basically, they really want their people to multiply, you can say. And that is because the population is actually declining at a rate of 0.02% per year. Granted, it's not very large, but nevertheless, it's still declining, and it's a big deal in Russia. There is actually a very high literacy rate, with 99.7% of the population being able to read and write by age 15. And I think, that's pretty standard. The schools are pretty rigid, pretty strict, pretty full on. So definitely you'll know how to read and write by the age of 15. So the currency here is rubles. And 1 ruble right now compared to Australian dollar is about 60 something. 1 ruble
in US dollars is about 70 at the moment, and similarly with euro, about like 50, 60. Prices, I find them reasonable to pay for things like for clothes, although some are still, if you convert them on our money. I bought a coat here, like autumn coat here, and that was like 160 our dollars, and that's freaking expensive for locals here. Salaries vary because this is like regional. The salaries vary from 20 to 30,000 rubles, and like a really good salary is like 50,000 rubles that you can sort of get in your, you know, late 20s, maybe mid 30s. And if you're like cut out director, like a director or like CEO or whatever, you can also earn up to like 100, 150, maybe 200 would be really like getting up there. And converted that, what are we equal to? So 1,000 rubles is $20 at the moment, Australian. So like 10 would be, you know, 200. $500 a week to earn would considered like an incredibly top-notch job. Not many people. I mean, there are people who earn this sort of money here, but it's very rare. But the fact is, when you convert the prices of living here, like certain things like bread and buckwheat is like my most favorite food, like things like that are fairly like, there is a season for persimmons. I don't know if you know what they are, but they're like my most favorite childhood like fruit thing in the world, and they're so in season right now over here. It's incredible. Like they're not obviously in season here. It doesn't. They don't grow here. They get shipped into here from the. So it's like from the south. That's what we say, from the south. This is a Russian money. 1,000. $2,000. These are new money. Like these ones, like more these paper ones, these are pretty old. They've been around for many years. See, 1997. But these colored ones, they're more new, like more recent. So there's 5,000. But see, these two made differently. And I'll show you something really cool very soon. But it's 5,000 rubles. There's some coins. So the eagle is always like the eagle in the back. Rubles. So as I mentioned previously, there have recently been these two new banknotes that have been issued in the government with the money. It's this really fun and colorful, the 200 and 2,000 rubles banknotes. And what they have done is that they have created this app which allows you to check and make sure that they're valid, that they're not fake money, because they're very colorful and very fun, and you know, they're also very new, so not everyone was sure if it's true or not. So this is just another way, and it's just like it's pretty fun. It's like a little game really, but you can check and you have this 3D thing pop up which shows you if it's a true money or not. Now, something to mention is that the Russian ruble, or ruble, is obviously a currency of the Russian Federation. And the ruble then is subdivided into 100, we call them kopeyki, or could be kopeiks, kopeyka. The ruble was the currency of the Russian Empire and of the Soviet Union, Soviet ruble. However, today only Russia, Belarus use the currency with this name. The ruble is also the oldest national currency after the pound sterling and the world's first decimal currency. The ruble has been used in the Russian territory since the 13th century. The modern Russian ruble was created in December 1991 and used in parallel with Soviet ruble. So as you know, Russia was amongst a few other countries which
together were called USSR. And after the breakdown of the USSR, the currency they used back in those days was Soviet ruble. And once Russia became its own country, you can say, they have the Russian ruble. So they phased out the Soviet coins and the Soviet rubles after quite a few years.
In terms of accommodation, again, you can get all kinds of accommodation here, but it generally costs from around 10, 15, maybe 20,000 rubles per month as well for like rent of apartments. And for a few million rubles, you can buy yourself like a small little apartment if you wanted to live in something like that. There are a lot of things that are, discounted here, like, government supports you and funds you with your children. Like they try and pay you for having like an extra child. They're encouraging population growth. So you get like a few 100,000 for having a child. Basically for having like another child in your family, like 3 children, like for the third child. If a family has a third child or a woman does, then you get like a chunk of money from the government. Let's just have a look what it's like. So growing up, I lived in an apartment. My cousin right now lives outside of the city. It's much cleaner here. The air is beautiful. I think the nature is beautiful. Do you see like all that forest out there? I'll get out of the thing so you see it better. That's freaking spectacular. To see that is absolutely beautiful. That is so pretty. Это он чистит снег. Ой, какая машина. Ладно.
In Russia, there are 12 active volcanoes. In fact, one of them comes on Kamchatka territory, called Ключевская Sopka volcano, has had 50 major eruptions in the last 270 years.
Usually kids go to kindergarten, which basically takes them up to 6-7 years old, and then you go to school. You start school when you're 6 or 7, and you're there until you're 17, basically 17, 18, depending on the age where you first went to school. It's very beautiful. I do love the snow, like it's very memorable. It brings back memories from my childhood. I'm glad that I came for a visit. It's spectacular here. Very different. I find these little houses very romantic because, like that smoke. I know you see the smoke. That's people, basically, there's electricity, right? You can see over there the cables and that, right? But a lot of people, to warm up their houses, they have what do you call chimneys, and they basically put the wood, they break up the wood, and they have a little bit of coal, but usually it's the wood and maybe a couple of handfuls of coal they chuck in the oven, like, what do you call it? The fireplace, that's the right word. So they chuck it into the fireplace, and that's how they keep warm. My grandparents had a little village type country house like this when I was growing up, so we definitely used that. It wasn't really livable in winter, but it was livable in summer, spring, autumn, and we used to just go and plant all the different things, potatoes and pumpkins and cucumbers and cabbage and tomatoes and everything. And that's what we lived with through when I was growing up. And it was quite beautiful. But yeah, so we had the chimneys, and those chimneys would heat up the place. We had a little bit of electricity there, but I also remember the time where before electricity, there was no electricity. There'd be just a little lamp with not oil, kerosene. Do you know kerosene? Like, am I saying it right? With kerosene, so you like roll up the little wheel and light it up, and you walk around with like this little hand lamp, and that would be a source of light for the night. Вас нет? А нужно? Почему? Вас снять? Хорошо, могу вас снять. Просто о жизни. Вас снять? Ну хорошо.
Покажите мне.
Конечно, покажу. Угу.
Давай.
Давайте. Какой работник. Копает. На свежий воздух. Естественно, ну, теплица. Все сами садим.
Все свое.
Все свое.
Ничего чужого. Если приходит ко мне домой, это должен 68, я угощу свои лично, именно которые моя жена и я готовы. Это вещество. Именно на этой дороге все готовится.
Здорово. Молодцы. See, outside, there's a toilet there. That is a toilet in that little house outside. And that's usually how people go to the bathroom, like in the country. But I'm lucky that my sister, my cousin, has a bathroom inside. It's more like modern houses. But usually it'd be like a little house like this. You see the crazy snowfall that we're experiencing? So beautiful, so beautiful. In 2011, Russia became the world's leading oil producer. It is the second largest producer of natural gas, and it boasts the second largest coal reservoir. This makes the country very susceptible to boom and bust cycles, and I actually have experienced it. I have been able to observe it, and have worked in that industry over here in Australia as well, I definitely can see how the oil and gas and coal is just very cyclical type economy. And that's why Russian ruble is actually it used to be at about 23 rubles per US dollar, and now it's at 70. And it over the years been jumping up and down, zigzagging because of that economy. And because it's so tied in with the price of coal, with the price of oil,